Welcome to Durrett's Take. I hope you all had a wonderful past good couple days. Let's get started. So, for interesting fact of the day, because remember I'm going to start doing that from now on. An interesting fact is that Chris Paul last night, he scored 17 points, but he scored 15 assists with 0 turnovers. That's pretty impressive. And that's why the Suns are up 2-0. But before I talk about basketball, I want to talk about something else first. So there's an article that I saw on Yahoo by Pete Thamel. He talked about how he was talking with multiple people like schools officials, ADs, particularly media members, etc., and stuff like that. And throughout the next week, big things could happen. Or maybe not, but at least it's a possibility of a big announcement that can happen next week. Anyways, if the playoffs were to expand, the college football playoffs were to expand, the most likely outcome would be a 12-team format. The way it would work is that you would have the 5 auto bids, so whoever wins their conference gets an auto bid, and then the best, highest ranked group of 5, and then 6 at larges. The kinks on the scheduling will still need to be figured out, of course, and that hasn't really been talked about as much. But they did say that they were thinking about giving the first 4 teams a bye, and then have seeds 5 through 8 host on their home field seeds 9 through 12. So I have done this before, back when when they were discussing the possibility of a 16-team format. I went over and went ahead the top 16 teams from last year and gave you what kind of scenarios would happen there. I'm going to kind of do that again this time, but instead of using last year's rankings, I'm going to go ahead and use what I feel like these teams are going to be the following season. So let's get started. So you would have a 5 and 12 matchup. And for my 5th ranked team, I actually have Clemson as my 5th ranked team. And I'll explain, how I got to Clemson to be a 5th later on, but right now I'm just talking more about matchups. So I have 5th Clemson, and then the 12th team will be the highest ranked group of 5 champion. Now, the highest group of 5 champion doesn't have to be the 12th seed every time necessarily, but in this case, I feel like they're the last team in type of thing. So the highest group of 5 champion that's going to be this year, in my opinion, will be Louisiana. Now, I know Cincinnati was it last year, and for the most part, they're bringing a lot of people back, so they're going to be good once again this year. But I feel like if you look at both, Louisiana and Cincinnati's schedule, I feel like there's a difference there on the scheduling, so therefore it favors Louisiana more than it does Cincinnati. Because remember, Cincinnati didn't have any P5s last year until the New Year's Six Bowl type of thing, so it was easy for them to be undefeated that whole time. So it'll be interesting. I feel like this, game, this would be a pretty good game. But I feel like Clemson will obviously win it. And then you have a 6 seed Notre Dame versus 11 seed Oregon. Oregon would be my Pac-12 champion representative here. And I feel like even though it's at Notre Dame, I feel like this is a game where Oregon can actually get the upset here. I can see that happening here, and I would pick them to get the upset. And then I have 7 Texas A&M versus 10 Iowa State. I know Iowa State's gonna be good once again this year, but as you saw last year, and even before that, it's just like when it comes to bowl games, against a league competition by the end of the year, they kind of shy away or run away from prosperity when they kind of shrink in the moment type of thing. So I feel like with the experienced coach and Jimbo Fisher, I feel like he would get the matchup there. And then you got 8 Texas versus 9 Iowa. And that would be a pretty interesting game there. But I feel like Steve Sarkisian would get his team a win there to advance. So then you would have 1 Alabama. That's no surprise there, Alabama number 1, versus 11 Oregon, because whoever's lowest your remaining will play the number 1 team. So I have Alabama win that one pretty easily. And then you got 2 Oklahoma versus 8 Texas. So a rematch basically. That you're going to see because it's a Big 12 versus Big 12 matchup. And for me, people may say, oh, I don't want to see another rematch. Well, I wouldn't mind another rematch if it's a matchup of 2 good teams and, each time it's a close result type of thing. Now, if it's a matchup of blowouts, then that's where it's like, okay, yeah, I don't want that. But I feel like this would be a good matchup there. I feel like Oklahoma will survive in advance. Then you got 3 Georgia versus 7 Texas A&M. Now, even though they're both SEC, if I remember correctly, they both don't play each other, in their conference schedule, so this wouldn't be a rematch. And this would be a good matchup. I would take Georgia. And then 4 Ohio State versus 5 Clemson. I would take Clemson here in the upset over Ohio State, and they get their revenge from last year. So you have a 1 Alabama versus 5 Clemson. matchup there. And then I would take, Alabama to win that one. And then 2 Oklahoma versus 3 Georgia. This would be a very good one. It was hard for me to pick this one. But again, I like Spencer Rattler. I like the direction Oklahoma's in it than last season. That's why I had them number 2. But I'm going to take Oklahoma there. And they have an Alabama-Oklahoma championship matchup with Alabama winning it. So to kind of show you how I got there real quick. So Alabama, I actually feel like they're not going to, like for the second half of the season, I actually feel like they're not going to be number 1 seed because I feel like because Alabama and Georgia will play in the regular season, and this time I feel like Georgia, while Alabama is figuring it out with a new quarterback and all that, with an experienced quarterback, I feel like that's going to give Georgia, who has experienced quarterback, who has a good defense year and year and all that, and you got to remember that game was close, until the fourth quarter, Alabama started pouring it on them, but. Um, and that was a different quarterback who was playing for Georgia, by the way. But I feel like that game Georgia will win, and I feel like they'll have a rematch as the championship game, and that's where Nick Saban going to lose twice. One team will get his revenge there, and that's why they'll end up being number 1 because unless there's another undefeated team, a 1-loss SEC champion should usually always be number 1. So you got to be on Oklahoma. The reason why I have them number 2 is because I feel like. Again, with Spencer Rattler, I feel like he was from going, bench to all of a sudden, going off, for the rest of the season. And not only that, but the thing that caught my eye was that Oklahoma's defense is what improved, from the beginning of the season where it was bad to now the end of the season where it got way better. They're shutting down Florida, and shutting down Iowa State and all that. So you didn't have to win by 40 anymore. It could be, a better matchup. And then 3, I got Georgia because I feel like even though they didn't win an SEC championship game, but their only loss is to number 1 Alabama. They should be in, especially since they would have already beaten Bama in the regular season. They could beat them, so they deserve to be in. But the reason why I don't have the number 4 though over another is because that would be a third time that they would match up, which I feel like the committee would want to try to avoid that. So then you got 4, and the reason why I picked Ohio State over Clemson is because Clemson's schedule, besides playing Georgia, which I have that as their only loss, would not, and that's another reason why Georgia would get in, by the way, is because they would have had to over Clemson there, in the non-conference there. But the reason I'm Ohio State over Clemson besides that is because Ohio State plays a harder schedule than Clemson, and that's why they would get the nod, as long as they can, both finish this conference championship with 1 loss type of thing. So then if I Clemson at 6 Notre Dame, they would only have 1 loss in my opinion. Their schedule kind of sits them out nicely. I can't remember. They either played Georgia or Clemson. I can't remember which one, but I feel like they're going to lose that one. But other than that, even though they have a new quarterback, I feel like the schedule's easy enough to where they can kind of get through it. And then the other teams I mentioned, I feel like they're going to be good, but they're kind of like the next tier below though. So basically for that, in a normal 4-team matchup, you would have the argument between Georgia, Ohio State, Clemson, Notre Dame. But now with this 12-team format, you don't have any arguments there. And as you can see here, my scenarios, I would have 5 Clemson upsetting 4 Florida States, and that way Clemson showed, okay, no, we deserve to get in to the actual 14 playoff if that were to happen, type of thing. So this was good. There are multiple reasons why I feel like expanding the playoffs would be the right move here. One is revenue. This will help more teams get big revenue, especially for whoever's the Group of 5 champion who gets the auto bid. And secondly, the Group of 5 champion can get into this type of playoff format, which gives the little guys a chance. And then third, this assures that every P5 champion will be in versus the current format where you're going to have 1 out every time, or sometimes 2 because Notre Dame steals a bid. But at this time, Notre Dame wouldn't have to steal bid because they can get out large bid. So it works out for everyone there. Another reason why this works is because this could bring excitement to college football. Will Bama or Ohio State or Clemson win the chip mostly every year despite the new format? Probably, but most years. But again, like I explained earlier, with a 16-team while back, like a month ago, at least the road to get to the championship at this point be more exciting. To kind of help illustrate my point here, I'm not even going to bring up March Madness as an example because that's no college playoff format, but I will mention you the playing games for the NBA this past season. While the Eastern Conference was a wash, all 3 playing games for the West were fun, they were entertaining, and they were close games. And you had an upset, with Memphis over Golden State as an 8th seed. And also, it was fun, see powerhouse Lakers and LeBron, powerhouse Golden State and Steph Curry, in that playing game. So in my scenario, I had Clemson, a perennial playoff team every year, having to play the first week and not getting that bye though, and have that being it's like, oh, they have to play their way in type of thing. So I feel like, and also with other powerhouse programs, like Texas and Oregon and Notre Dame having to be in that first week wild card round scenario. I feel like that's good stuff right there. But if you're looking for even better comparison, you can look no further than the best league of sports in all sports in the NFL. Now the NFL is 14 teams playoffs now versus 12 like it was. But when it was back in 12, like look what you had. You had plenty of upsets. You had Cleveland upsetting Pittsburgh in the first round, Baltimore upsetting Tennessee, and then you had also um, the Rams upsetting Seattle. So you had multiple upsets there. That was fun to see. And then you had a wildcard team, Tampa Bay, going all the way to win the Super Bowl. Now I doubt like a team like from 9 to 12 seed will go all the way to win the college football championship, but still like that. Like there's a bunch of excitement. Then you don't say, oh well, the home crowd team that's the event they're going to usually win every single time. It's like no, that's not the case. And even in the NFL where there's more fans in the stadiums and all that, it happens all the time where there's upsets. So in conclusion, we are tired of knowing it's Bama or it's Ohio State or it's Clemson, whoever, and that's it. It's time for others to join the party and watch the fun. It'll be interesting to see what the college football play decides to do this week and next week. Also, some other college football news is that Nick Saban did get a contract extension until 2028. Now, there are people who are upset that now Nick Saban can continue to rule college football, for another 7 years. That's not how I look at it. Remember, Saban was reportedly grooming, Steve Sarkisian to take over, but instead he bolted for Texas. So it makes sense that he will want to coach for some more years to find a new guy and to groom him and get ready to be the replacement, like Duke is doing with Coach K and grooming the assistant coach to be his replacement after this year. The problem right now is that we don't know if that guy is already in the building or not. Because if not, then you can add another year or two on Nick Saban coaching until he brings that guy in. But if I'm Nick Saban here, in my opinion, I feel like Bill O'Brien, who's in the building, I feel like he should be the guy. Now, he wouldn't have to GM because that was his downfall in the NFL. He wouldn't have to worry about that. But he was a good coach in the NFL. I mean, he got Matt Schaub to the playoffs. I mean, he can get your teams to the playoffs every year. But now the problem is that he wasn't a good playoff coach, especially that debacle against Kansas City. That's kind of what's hanging over his head. So that's why, in my opinion, I feel like he wouldn't get a job as a coach again in the NFL. Maybe an assistant, but not as a head coach in the NFL again. But you have to remember, he actually has been a head coach in college football back with Penn State. So because he already has experience, and it was a good experience too. Like Penn State was really good. That's why he made a jump from Penn State to the NFL, is because he was doing good there. And Penn State, while it's not Alabama level, it's a good powerhouse program there. So Nick Saban, in my opinion, wouldn't even have to train that long, to be the replacement. I mean, it's adjustment, Big Ten football versus SEC. That's an adjustment there. But other than that, I feel like it shouldn't have taken that long. So let's say in 3 years, Nick Saban feels like, okay, I'm ready for Bill O'Brien to take over, for example. Then he can just retire and step down, and therefore he doesn't have to finish out his contract. Now, could he coach till 2028? Yes, it's very possible. But for fans who are, tired of Saban's dominance, Cleamy, and all that, I don't think it will last until 2028. So don't let this contract fool you. So thank you very much for listening to my podcast today. Please subscribe to my channel and tell everyone about me. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day.